Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You've trusted us with your sources, and today we are plunging into one of the most intellectually, compelling and, frankly, dangerous works of classic literature. Oscar Wilde's 1891 masterpiece, The Picture of Dorian Gray.
And the sources for this deep dive are intensely philosophical. We're not just looking at a Gothic story here. We are really examining Wilde's entire thesis on aestheticism, influence, and morality.
Right.
So our mission is to understand how this pursuit of sensational experience, when it's consciously detached from any ethical constraint, how that's championed as the most perfect life, but it just leads to ruin, spectacular ruin.
It's a huge contradiction at the very heart of the book, and it leaves you asking, can you really live a life where beauty is the only virtue? So, okay, let's start at the beginning with that incredibly controversial preface.
Absolutely. The key to the whole novel isn't really the plot. It's the philosophical rulebook he lays out right at the start. It's his declaration of art for art's sake.
And it is so clear. He argues that the purpose of art is to reveal art and conceal the artist. So the artist is just a creator of beauty. It's an immediate split between the art and the person.
Precisely. And if you accept that, then the next step is logical. There can be no moral or immoral books. A book is just well or badly written. That is all.
So the moral life of a person, that's just raw material.
Exactly. But the art itself, it's judged purely on its form, not its message.
That's a fundamentally shocking idea, especially for Victorian England. But what really gets me is what he says about the person looking at the art, that all criticism is just a form of autobiography.
It's his ultimate defense, isn't it? I mean, if you find something ugly or corrupt in his beautiful work, he's basically saying the problem lies with you, the viewer. And then he gives that chilling warning.
Those who go beneath the surface do so at their peril.
And those who read the symbol do so at their peril. He's almost daring you to look for meaning.
Which is fascinating because it suggests that engaging with the moral depth of art it's actually destructive. So is this the intellectual framework that Lord Henry Wotton then uses to corrupt Dorian?
It is. It sets the stage perfectly. Lord Henry basically takes this philosophy and weaponizes it. He says the only excuse for doing a useless thing is admiring it infinitely.
So if you can just admire the wicked or the useless as a beautiful object, then you've achieved the aesthetic life.
You've moved from philosophy to a kind of lived, dangerous practice.
And that takes us right to the players in this terrifying experiment. We have our three central figures, Basil Hallward, Lord Henry Wotton, and of course Dorian Gray himself.
Right. And Basil, the painter, he's the tragic one. He should be the moral anchor here, but he's already compromised. He won't exhibit the portrait because he admits he's put too much of his own soul and strange idolatry into it.
So Basil, the good guy, has already broken Wilde's first rule.
Yeah.
He failed to conceal the artist, and he's ashamed of it.
Exactly. He believes his soul and his work should be separate, but his adoration for Dorian has just bled onto the canvas.
And then in walks Lord Henry Wotton, the ultimate corrupter. He's this master of the witty paradoxical saying, and he's fascinated by people without principles.
But the key thing Basil says about him is that his cynicism is just an affectation.
An act.
Yes, and that's what makes him so dangerous. He's not a true believer. He's just playing with these destructive ideas like it's a game without any personal risk.
He weaponizes his words. He tells Dorian that conscience and cowardice are really the same, and then he delivers that core belief that ruins Dorian.
The idea that the aim of life is self-development. Reach the fullness of the most perfect manner possible.
And influencing someone isn't guidance, it's
giving them one's own soul. It's a parasitic idea dressed up as enlightenment. He just plants the seed, and Dorian, who is this total blank slate, he's immediately receptive.
The book says he feels completely new influences acting within him. He discovers the mystery of existence just from a few simple words. The entire tragedy begins with just one conversation.
And that philosophical change gets tested immediately with his first real act of cruelty, the whole tragic episode with Sybil Vane, the actress.
Right, and his love for her is completely conditional on her art. He doesn't love the person, Sybil.
No, he loves her as this vessel for art. He says she is all the great heroines of the world in one.
So when she actually falls in love with him, for real?
The art is ruined. For her, reality has become more important. She says the stage now seems empty, fake, stupid. Her acting becomes terrible because she's found something real.
And Dorian's reaction is just ice cold. He has no use for the flawed, real Sybil Vane. He just tells her, "You've disappointed me," and leaves because she ruined his dream of art.
And the consequence is her suicide. This is the critical moment. Lord Henry steps in and completely reframes it for Dorian. He removes the moral horror. He tells him that marrying her would have been boring, a failure from beginning to end. He turns her death into an aesthetic critique.
He makes it about success or failure, not life and death. And Dorian buys it.
Instantly. He doesn't grieve. He calls her suicide a wonderful experience, something extraordinarily dramatic.
That's the first real rot setting in.
And when he gets home, he sees it. That internal decay is now external. The portrait has changed. The contract is sealed. His soul is now on the canvas, and he is free.
Free to live this purely aesthetic life, which is guided by what the source calls the poisonous book.
That unnamed French novel, it's so important. It acts as a kind of a prefiguration, a blueprint for Dorian's life. It's described as a psychological study that uses the language of mystical philosophy to describe the life of the senses.
So it intellectualizes vice.
It gives him the playbook. He starts seeking experience itself and not the fruits of experience, ignoring all consequences. He just wants to concentrate on the moment.
And his pursuits become so specific, so eccentric.
Oh, absolutely. He delves into this true psychology of perfumes, using incense to feel mystical, ambergris for passion, musk because it perturbs the brain. He's trying to scientifically chart the soul's reactions to sense.
And the details about his collections are they're so revealing. We know he collects exotic musical instruments. He prefers barbarous music over Beethoven or Chopin.
He wants the primal, the raw. He gets these mysterious Jura Paris flutes, the ones women aren't allowed to even see, and even flutes made from human bones.
There's this constant mixing of the sacred and the profane in everything he does. His jewels, for example. He's obsessed with the stories behind them, like an agate granting eloquence or a bezoar curing the plague.
He's trying to absorb their mystical power through these material objects. And the fabrics. He collects these incredibly elaborate church vestments covered in pearls and images of martyrs.
So he takes these symbols of holiness and sacrifice.
And uses them as mere decoration for his godless, sensual life. It's a complete consumption of the spiritual world for aesthetic pleasure.
And yet, despite all this, his reputation is starting to crack. The sources talk about hideous scandals.
Yes, fighting with sailors, being seen in awful places. But his face, his youth, and his wealth, they shield him. Wilde makes that bitter point that society cares more about a good chef than cardinal virtues.
That shield, that immunity, lets the corruption just fester for years. Which brings us, inevitably, to Basil Hallward's last desperate attempt to save him.
After years of hearing these awful rumors, Basil finally confronts him. He pleads with him. He says, sin is something that men carry written on their face, and he begs Dorian to repent.
But Dorian is.
Well,
he's long past that.
He's fueled by this madness of pride. Instead of just sending Basil away, he decides to destroy him, to shatter his morality completely. He drags him up to the attic.
To show him the secret.
The monstrous, corrupted portrait, his real soul.
And Basil is just horrified. He sees it as a terrible lesson, and he begs Dorian to pray. He says, you know, your prayer of pride was answered. Maybe a prayer of repentance will be too.
But it's too late. Dorian is filled with this glacial anger. He actually blames Basil for creating the portrait, for starting this whole thing. And in this fit of rage, he murders him.
The ultimate act. He kills the artist, the one person who represented his conscience.
And what follows is so chillingly clinical. He blackmails an old friend, Alan Campbell, a brilliant chemist, to dispose of the body.
Right, using science.
Yeah.
Probably nitric acid, based on the context.
And this just shows how deep his evil goes. He's not only a murderer, he has now corrupted science, corrupted a man of intellect, and forced him to help erase the crime. Dorian's influence poisons everyone, even those who tried to escape him.
And even after all that, the past comes back for him. Years later, in the form of James Vane, Sybil's brother.
He's been hunting for Prince Charming for nearly 20 years. He finds Dorian in an opium den, but Dorian's shield works one last time.
He just points to his young face.
And Vane is fooled. He thinks he's too young. But then an old woman laughs and tells him the truth. She says that's the man, the one who sold his soul to the devil for a pretty face. The mask is finally pierced by the truth.
But even then, justice doesn't quite get him. James Vane is killed accidentally in a hunting accident on Dorian's own land. It's like the universe is still protecting him.
So in his final days, Dorian tries one last good deed. He breaks off an affair with a village girl, Hetty, to save her from his corruption.
He thinks this is his redemption.
But Lord Henry gets in one final cynical shot. When Dorian confesses this good act, Henry just scoffs. He says Dorian probably just broke her heart and got a new thrill of sheer pleasure from the noble sacrifice.
Forcing Dorian to realize that even his good deeds are selfish.
That's the final crisis. He realizes his whole downfall came from that monstrous moment of pride, his first prayer, his wish for the painting to bear his burdens. He understands his prayer should have been, "Punish us for our iniquities."
He finally hates the beauty. He smashes the mirror Lord Henry gave him, seeing his youth as just a mask and a mockery.
And he decides he has to destroy the evidence, the portrait. He thinks if he can destroy the canvas, he can destroy the past, destroy his corrupted soul.
What an absolutely punishing journey. I mean, we start with this high-minded aesthetic ideal, art for art's sake, and we watch it morph into this scientific experiment with the self, all protected by a mask of eternal youth.
And the ultimate irony is right there. Dorian set out to achieve self-development to the most perfect manner possible, and what he achieved was the most perfect form of spiritual destruction. He got total freedom from consequences, and in doing so, he lost his humanity.
And that really leaves us with a final provocative thought, and it comes from another one of Wilde's own aphorisms. He once said that the one charm of marriage is that it makes a life of deception absolutely necessary. Dorian's life was this attempt at absolute personal freedom, with no moral constraints, and it ended in total ruin. So it really makes you ask, if the price of that kind of freedom is destruction, is social artifice, even a little bit of deception to keep up appearances, is that the only thing that preserves order, community, and maybe, just maybe, our own souls? Something for you to chew on until our next deep dive.